Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our LinkedIn Live event featuring 3 of our physicians from a few of Javara's healthcare partners, Privia Health and Mankato Clinic. I'm Dr. Colleen Tenan. I'm the medical director here at Javara, and today's discussion will highlight how to advance clinical research through healthcare system partnerships. For those of you who are new to Javara, we are an integrated research organization that partners with healthcare systems to bring clinical research into communities, offering patients the opportunity to participate in clinical research as a care option offered by their trusted physicians. We have 40 sites and are located in 7 states with about 160 investigators active in research. We're excited to have 3 physicians join us today to speak about their experience with clinical research and with Javara. I'm joined by Dr. Keith Fernandez, Dr. Charlotte Grayson, and Dr. Katie Thompson. I'll start by allowing each physician to give a brief introduction to themselves and their practice, and I'd love to start with you, Dr. Fernandez.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank heaven. Keith Fernandez, I'm the Chief Clinical Officer of Privia Health, which is a physician enablement company, bringing physicians together and providing services to them. Describe us just very quickly: about 5,000 providers, more than half of them physicians, 14 states, and very, very culturally forward group. We have a governance that promotes these physicians as leaders of our company.
Dr. Grayson, would you mind going next?
Yes, my name is Dr. Charlotte Grayson. I am an internal medicine physician in Fayetteville, Georgia, which is a suburb somewhat of Atlanta, south of Atlanta, of the airport. I've been doing research with Javara for about 5 years now. In addition to that, I'm also the chair of our department in our 14 partner practice. And I also do some work with Privia as one of their directors of research in this particular region.
Great. And Dr. Thompson.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Katie Thompson. I'm family medicine in Mankato, Minnesota, which is about an hour and a half west of St. Paul, Minneapolis, and as well as Rochester, about an hour and a half from Rochester, Mayo as well. I've been working with Javara for 18 months, almost 2 years now. And here in Mankato, we have the Mankato Clinic, which is a group of 880 physicians that are, we are a physician-owned organization.
Great. Thanks for the introductions. I'd love to get into some questions now. So I'm going to start with one to you, Dr. Grayson, and then we'll ask other people to chime in. But how would you say that clinical research aligns to your organizational objectives and priorities?
So, like most physician organizations, we are a patient-first organization. We put our patients in the front of what we do. We are a large provider in this community and very involved in the community. And research has been something that we've always been interested in. We've done it in the past. And going with Javara gave us the option to re-offer clinical research as a care option. We are in a community that is at least 40 to 50 miles away from another academic center. So options to participate in clinical trials and get access to some of the most cutting edge treatments is not something that's usually available to our patients in our community. And so going into research and having Javara embedded in our site has given us that option.
Great. Dr. Thompson, how does it fit with the Mankato model in your practice specifically?
Yeah, so similar to what Dr. Grayson said, doing more things that are bread and butter of my traditional family medicine daily work. I'm working with GLP-1s on the market. I'm working with immunizations, different testing and treatments for things that I see every day. And so I really feel like it benefits our patients that we're seeing just very standard, typical family medicine problems, and then really on the cutting edge of new treatments for our patient population. Because like Dr. Grayson said, it all comes down to patient care and making sure that we're doing things that better their care.
Great. And Dr. Fernandez, the same question, I think you might have a different perspective since you work with Privia at more of the national level. So I'd love to hear how you sort of thought about this with, the Privia organization as a whole. Dr. Fernandez, I'm going to pause you for 1 second. Try again. There we go. Yep.
Okay, that's it. I've got a sound issue. So I think that clinical research aligns very, very well with the mission of Privia. Basically, we're in this business to improve patient outcomes. Charlotte said, patients first. We also want to take care of the practice of medicine, empowering private practice physicians to maintain their practice. And then we want to change healthcare. I think we really do want to win, meaning be successful and grow. And clinical research is an important part of that. I mean, we practice medicine that is value-based. Almost every one of our contracts in Privia is value-based and not just fee-for-service. So in our contracts, improving outcomes is also critical. And we wanted to bring research into the routine management of difficult patient populations, patients with diabetes, serious health issues. Someday, I hope, a significant number of immune diseases, cancers, and be able to change healthcare a little more rapidly than it would otherwise change. I think one of the things that we bring, and I think Mankato Clinic brings, is large populations of patients with every social determinant, every ethnicity, every background, every area of the country. And we think that in the short run, we can actually increase the enrollment in clinical trials. And that'll be a big enhancement to the speed of development of these drugs. Towards the end, I'll talk about that as well. I think we have a huge opportunity here to accelerate change in healthcare that is going to dramatically change the health of patients.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, I'd also say, I think when these patients join clinical trials, they probably get a little bit more frequency of interactions with the healthcare system and some closer oversight. So I think it's a great two-way street benefiting the patients as well. So I'll go back to you, Dr. Fernandez. I feel you explained a little bit about the thought of and rationale of bringing research on board to your organization. Once you made that decision that you wanted to provide clinical research, what were you thinking about when you were doing evaluations, and why did you select Javara to partner with?
So we talked, of course, with a number of companies. And I think I'm going to say right off the top, it was philosophically a good match. I think Javara wants to provide care to the patient and research as a part of that care, research as a care option for patients. And we wanted to do the same thing. It's difficult, but I wanted to align value-based care, better outcomes, with at least the opportunity to bring new medications or old medicines getting used for new things to the care of these patients, especially when they're not successful. If you have a poorly controlled diabetic, do you just throw up your hands and blame the world for that, or can you actually do something different? So I was looking for a partner that would not disrupt the practice. I didn't want to hire and fire a bunch of clinical trial navigators and site managers. I don't have the expertise in that. So Javara brought that expertise. I think great alignment in vision and goals around clinical research. And I think just a good match with the type of practices that we manage. We're, again, not a big academic center, so we have to kind of deal with very individual practices and match what they do as much as possible. I think we don't have the expertise in engaging pharma in clinical trials. This is also done. And it still allows our doctors to be doctors. I think the most important thing about clinical research and how you engage around it is that the physician is still the physician, and that means they're taking care of that patient. So I think Javara benefits from these clinicians who really care about that, and we benefit from the expertise of Javara.
Great. And, Dr. Thompson, you sort of had a little bit different experience because you weren't involved in sort of the onboarding of Javara to the Mankato partnership, but you did at one, eventually sort of raise your hand and say, I want to bring this into my practice and my patients. So what were you thinking about when you decided to make the leap into research and, partner with us?
Yeah, so I jumped into Javara maybe about 6 months after our first provider started with it, and she really championed clinical research within our community, not just generally for Mankato Clinic patients, but just any patients that were in the area to try to pull them in to the research that we were doing. And I saw how easily it embedded into her own practice, because as a busy family medicine physician, I was not looking for more work. I did not want to do more work. But I'm always looking for what is best for the patient. And so I just really liked how with the Javara research that was being done, it was just very easily to be done with my patients, to be done with patients that are already here. It didn't make my life any busier. In fact, I feel like it helps me provide better and higher level of care to the patients that I do have, who are then also participating in this research opportunity. I just think of it sort of like as another tool in my belt when I'm thinking about different patients. If I have somebody who might qualify for an upcoming study, I'll at least share that with them. If they're interested, great. If they're not, no pressure. But really, it has not made any more work. And in fact, my work is more fulfilling because of the research that I'm doing and how easy Javara, working with our managers and the team here, how easy they make it for us to be involved. And the other thing that I'll say is I'm just thrilled to be doing this. When I graduated medical school and sort of got out of the academic setting and came to just be doing primary care here in a smaller town in Minnesota, I never thought I'd be doing any research. I thought that I'd left that far behind me. And so to be able to add that to my practice now, 13 years into practice, is just really, really exciting.
That's been something very inspiring about a lot of our PIs who have signed up, just because they know it's, will, one, be fulfilling to them, but two, will allow them to bring better care to their patients. So we're happy to have you here. Dr. Grayson, was your experience similar? Did you think about anything else when you were diving into research?
No, it was very much what Dr. Thompson is seeing. The best thing that really helped us jump into this was the fact that Javara is embedded in the building. We see patients, we think they're great for studies, we can send them right upstairs. It gives a great patient experience because they feel that their physicians are involved in the research. They're not going to a different location. And I think that that's really helped us make the decision to do research. It's why the physicians continue to refer to the research, because it's right in our building. And I think our patients associate the research with our practice that way. So I think those were huge factors for us.
Great. And Dr. Grayson, you have been, onboarded with us and Privia's with research for quite a while now, and have really become one of sort of our all-star investigators, just with the experience you've gained. What can you talk a little bit about what you've learned throughout this whole journey, and any lessons learned so far?
So, as one of the things I remember from looking back, because we did start in a really difficult time. Not only were we bringing research into a practice that hadn't done it for years, so most of the physicians hadn't seen any research. Our patients hadn't really seen research. So we were bringing it into a bit of a new environment, but more importantly, we were bringing it in the environment in the middle of the pandemic. And we were doing studies that were related to COVID, and there was a lot of controversy about a lot of the treatments. And so not only did we have to educate the physicians about the research, that took a while to get the physicians on board, but we were also having to educate patients. Now, interestingly, the patients came along faster than the physicians. It was really once we started getting feedback from the patients that they really enjoyed the experience, that they got a lot out of the experience. Also, we ended up getting published in a major medical journal. All of those things kind of brought the physicians along in the experience. It grew over time. It definitely was not only difficult because of that, but also because clinical research is a little bit of a different language than clinical medicine. And so as physicians, we had to learn some of that language. And that also took a good bit of time and just patience in the beginning. It's gotten a lot easier, but we definitely had to go through a process where we had to learn a lot.
There's a lot of mnemonics that you probably had to Google at the beginning.
Yes.
Dr. Fernandez, could you sort of talk about the learnings that you've had as it comes to sort of the whole health partnership at the healthcare system level?
Yes. So I actually agree with Charlotte and everything she said. From a system level, I'm going to talk maybe a little more about the difficult things about clinical research, because not everybody is Charlotte Grayson. who is ready to get out front and lead a program like this and communicate with physicians and patients, I think, in a really remarkable way. So what we've learned, first of all, in a partnership like this, it's got to be a partnership, not a vendor relationship. I think this is a big differentiator, working together every step of the way as if you depend on each other, not just like you have a job and I'm going to back off. Really, really important thing. I think another thing is differentiated trials. So I think not just vaccine trials, not just cardiology trials, but a good spectrum of trials so that there's always something going on. And I'm going to say this because it's just a plain business thing. If you're doing research that is intermittent, what's happening when you're not doing research? And you're probably losing a little bit of your touch there, and you might be losing employees who go, hey, this isn't happening, and a little bit of interest of your community. When you provide research, I think one of the great benefits is the spectrum of things that you can, see. The GLPs is a good example. I think that being able to really help those kind of patients. So really trying to encourage that from this side, and of course from our partner side. Other things are incentivizing, not paying for referrals or anything like that, but I think incentivizing performance. Like if you really do a good job of getting the right patients into a clinical trial, it's important that we do that. It's important that we do it completely, that we fill the trial. It's not just important for making money. It's important for the research that needs to get done. And I see these trials come by and it says, hey, we're going to, we want to get out of this contract if we haven't met our goal by this time. I've seen a few of these contracts come in. I've learned, like Charlotte, I think we were very proud when the work that Charlotte participated in and got published in a journal. We had the New England Journal of Medicine that pointed out 3 Privia practices in the top practices in the Moderna pediatric vaccine. Hard not to be really proud of that and get your groups and your physicians going. So the more things that you can do and show those kinds of successes, I think the more robust the program.
Great. So kind of a similar sentiment, but if say you're talking to your counterpart at an organization that doesn't have any clinical research, what advice would you give them before they sort of dive into this?
Well, I think what we did, which I think we could do it better. I think probably the learnings that I have now would be like, if I was starting a new one, I would be a lot quicker to that point. But I do think that really tight collaboration and learning from the partner about what makes successful research is a very important thing. Hurrying is not the right thing to do. It is really, let's make sure we've got the right people involved and they really want to do it. We have the right incentives aligned for that. Those kinds of things down to the nitty-gritty before actually launching. Once you launch, you've launched. And it's very hard to go back and say, oh, well, this isn't working out too well. We didn't have the right commitment. So those are the kind of things I would be very careful about.
Yeah, great. And Dr. Thompson, what about if you're speaking to a new investigator who's considering, starting research, bringing research into their practice from an investigator point of view? What advice would you give them?
Do it. I just think, my biggest hang up before I started was, can I do this? Like I said, I've been in practice for 13, 14 years now. And I haven't touched anything with research since I was a resident. And so I was just really nervous about my clinical skills and would that translate to the type of research that we're doing? And the answer is yes. It's not anything in labs or beakers or anything like that. It's very clinical research and just slides right into my normal day. But is like a little bit different than just seeing patients and sort of the grind of that. And so it's really just sort of advanced my I guess love for medicine sounds sort of corny, but really like it has sort of brought me back to like the roots of why I got into medicine. Like the research is really cool, and it's a fun aspect of patient care that I didn't think I was going to be able to do. And the other big thing for everybody, and this was my biggest hang up, was, will it be more work for me? And no, I don't think it is more work. It's different work, but it's not any more work or more onerous than that.
Great. I mean, I think that's one of the beauty of partnering with an organization like Javara, where you may not have had research experience for the past 15 years, but the Javara staff that we have brought and embedded in your clinic does have that experience. So it is not, you have guides who can help you understand sort of all of the nuances, but that are applied to clinical research that you might not remember from.
Exactly. And that's the benefit of Javara and partnering with Javara, is that they have been with me every step of the way. They've been with all of our clinicians sort of every step of the way. We started out very slowly here at the Mankato Clinic. We started with one provider who had a couple of sub-investigators underneath her. We started off with just, I think an asthma study was our first one, and just slowly got the ball rolling. And what got me interested was I had a couple of pediatric patients who were on the asthma study who were doing amazing on the study drug. And I was like, well, this is for my patients. And so I have to find out more information. Not only, it's ultimately for them, but just like the professional interest and joy that it's brought me is awesome.
And Dr. Grayson, it feels like you've already gotten your whole practice involved and aware of research pretty efficiently. But if you were sort of talking to a new investigator interested in coming on board in your organization, anything different, any other recommendations you would have for them?
Well, what I do, and I work with a lot of physicians who are in research or coming along in research, and I always tell them that there is a time commitment to this, that they may have to shift gears a little bit, at least for a little while, to bring the program on. I find that where we've had the most success has been in physicians who are really enthusiastic about research, but also are really good communicators with their patients and with their practice, other physicians, the APPs, but as well as all of their ancillary staff. That's where we really are able to garner a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of recruitment into trials. And so I'm always looking for physicians who are kind of really excited about research and are able to share that excitement with the rest of their team so that they can really have a successful effort into research.
Great. So I know we're getting towards time here, so we'll start to wrap things up. But I know we've talked about sort of the evolution of these partnerships and the evolution of your research practice. But sort of if you could summarize at this point now, what has been the biggest benefit in doing research to your organization? Dr. Grayson, maybe I'll start with you.
So research has been incredibly beneficial to our practice. I think as physicians, it's, in kind of brought back our love of medicine, and improved our knowledge base. I think for our patients, it has broadened their care options. We have seen an incredible amount of excitement in our community about trials, from things like the GLPs and obesity trials to diabetes studies. We've had a lot of excitement about vaccine trials, and have been able to offer patients early opportunities to receive the RSV vaccine, for example, before it was approved. So I think research has been, all in all, a great experience for our practice, for our physicians, for the patients, for really our entire team.
How about you, Dr. Thompson?
I think the benefit that I enjoy the most is just being on the forefront of developing new medicines, like Dr. Grayson said, the GLP-1s or some of the new immunizations, or a current study is for COVID treatment. And so I just think that is really exciting to be on the forefront of advancing medicine and doing things now that I'll see in my career helping patients down the line.
Great. And Dr. Fernandez, just same question from the Privia perspective as a whole. What would you say has been the biggest benefit?
I would emphasize what my colleagues have said. I think that those are very, very important things, really changing the course of healthcare. I'm going to say a couple of other things that I don't think we've really mentioned. It does provide the practices a revenue stream. For my business of value-based care, where a win in Medicare shared savings, Medicare Advantage, is not going to happen every time, especially as healthcare evolves. And so having another stream of revenue where you're getting paid for work done, don't get me wrong, but it's actually a kind of a little bit of a safety hedge for years that might go up and down otherwise. I think that's important. And the second thing I'll say emphasizes some of the outcome stuff, I think. I was at a conference recently just listening to a bunch of different verticals, a bunch of different pharma companies on what's in the pipeline and what's going to change in the world with these new medicines. And one of them, simple one, was the extension of life. They're predicting a significant increase in lifespan related to these medicines. The GLPs have been mentioned another time. The thing that I think is like on an individual patient, a GLP really can improve their outcome. If you look at a population of kidney disease, diabetic patients, and look at what a GLP does to those populations, it dramatically changes their outcomes. In one of the studies recently, it was a 40% drop in admissions to the hospital. I've hired hundreds of care management nurses over my career, and I never got a 40% drop in admissions on any particular disease. So now obviously I can't put all of my patients on these drugs right now. They're not yet approved, but in research I can start to use them. More importantly, I can help accelerate the approval of these medicines with no hurrying through the actual protocol. It is, we be safe as you can be. But if I can enroll patients across the country, if we collectively can enroll those patients very rapidly, if we can do a vaccine study in 2 weeks, get the enrollment done, it changes the whole timeline of getting these drugs out. So I think that's the most important thing there. Charlotte has said it. I think we all on this call believe this is patients are first. Our outcomes, making them better, are what are really important in this thing in the end. And we need more people doing research effectively now than ever before. And I think we really can change the course of healthcare in the US.
Yeah, and with a nationwide organization like Privia located sort of across the country, you really are tapping into a big diversity of patient populations. So not only accelerating it, but accelerating the development in the patients that will end up being the end users of these medications at the end of the day.
And partners like Mankato Clinic and Privia together are just this much bigger, this much quicker. And I know that you're looking for those kind of partners.
Well, this has been a great discussion. We feel very fortunate to have all of you as our clinical research partners and advocates. So I really want to thank all of our panelists for taking their time to share their experiences and insights with us today. We hope you enjoyed the discussion, and if you're interested in learning more about clinical research as a care option or how your practice and organization can get involved in research, please reach out to Javara. Thanks again for joining us.